All right, Blake, Courtney, are you ready for your close-ups?
Wow, it's so weird to see you guys. Normally it's just all audio. Here we are.
Yeah. This has been a long time in the making, I gotta say. 2 years?
It really has.
Yeah?
I mean, more than 2 years. Yeah. This is wild. This is wild. We have viewers apparently
Mm-hmm.
now, not just listeners. Now, people, if you're
Wow,
listening and
that's a
you're
shift.
not viewing, then, I can't fault you there, just based on my own. I'm not good at doing my own makeup yet. But if you are viewing, then I don't know what to do with my hands.
Oh my gosh.
Courtney, what are we calling this? Is this the videoized version of Focus on This? The video version?
Yeah,
The
I don't
visual.
know that we have a name. I mean, what do y'all want to name this? Like the
Now you see me.
video
Wish you didn't.
podcast? We are real fancy there, real creative.
Wow, that is, yeah.
Mhm, yeah.
The videocast.
It's
The
inspiring.
vidcast.
Oh, but it is really exciting. I think, if I remember back, I will always have memories for the rest of my life at the beginning of the pandemic, recording this podcast in my closet. I think that will be like a lasting. And at that time, we were like, we should be doing video. Y'all see all this crazy clothes behind me? So, now we actually do have the podcast on video. So, hopefully y'all enjoy it. Now y'all get to see all the crazy things that you didn't see just on audio. All of a sudden I'm thinking, is this really a good decision on our part?
So today we are talking about journaling, the importance of it, the benefits of journaling, of just the whole process of getting your innermost thoughts down onto paper to help you be more productive through your weeks, your months, and your year. Blake, we've talked about this before on the show, and you are an avid journaler. You take time, you schedule time out just to get your thoughts on paper. Why or how did you kind of get into the groove of making that a habit of yours?
Because otherwise things don't work out so well. When you have all these feelings, Verb, and they're just like this. So I'll do this for video. This will be great for the YouTube. This is what the feelings are like on the inside. And then you start compressing. Then all of a sudden, someone turns in front of me in traffic, and I say words that I don't want to say. And I go, maybe I should work on these emotions before we get on the highway. So I kid, but only a little bit. I think I got into journaling I think I've always kind of been into journaling just to sort of get to understand what's happening. I need to journal, in short. So I started journaling simply to better understand myself and my experience of this thing we call life. This crazy as this blue marbles just shooting through space. I'm just journaling about it to try to wrap my arms around it and understand it all.
Wow. Okay. I will just say on the flip side of that, I feel like I'm on the other extreme of that, which is like sometimes people are like, well, how are you feeling about that or like something? And I'll be like, wait, hold on, like almost taken aback of like, whoa, wait, feelings? Hold on, I don't even know. Let me give me 5 and let me see if I can like access them. And so it's like, I think from like whichever perspective you're coming at this from,
yeah,
it can be a really beneficial practice.
Yeah, that way you don't have to, Courtney, every time someone asks you, hey, how are you feeling? You don't have to go, hold on, let me watch Simon Birch and try to generate some tears and figure out where my heart's at.
So regardless of, if you're listening, regardless of which end of that spectrum you're on, today we're going to talk through 4 reasons you should journal to live with more intent and more purpose. Welcome to another episode of Focus on This, the most productive podcast on the internet, so you can banish distractions, get the right stuff done, and finally start loving Mondays. I'm Verbs, here with Courtney Baker and Blake Stratton.
I love that in this moment, now that we're on video, it's like Blake has all of a sudden like amped up his antics to like a 10.
No, this is what I always am like. You
It's
guys
all
are
for the
crazy.
cameras.
And then I have gone the other extreme, which is like a deer in headlights, just like staring ahead, like I'm not moving. I can't.
Well,
Stay focused.
Stay focused.
we're talking about journaling today, why it matters, why we should do it more, or why anyone should do it. So we have a couple of reasons that we want to share with the audience today. Blake, help us out as our resident avid journaler, and Courtney is our resistant journaler. No, I'm not going to say that because I'm in that category too.
Yeah, I mean,
Blake, help us out with reason number one.
Yeah, we've got some great reasons here. Let's start with journaling helps us observe our lives. Journaling helps us observe our lives. So this is to contrast. We're going through our life. We're experiencing things. We're feeling things. We're doing things. And this is something we talk about a lot in our company at Full Focus is we want to live and work by design. We don't want to drift to destinations. So the beginning of designing the destination or designing the path of your life that you want, you can't really do that until you know what's happening, until you know where you're at currently. If you're trying to get directions somewhere, you can't just know where you want to go. You also have to know where you are. So journaling as a practice is a way to understand what's happening, what's going on in my world right now.
I think
that makes sense.
Yeah, I think this is really helpful. I feel like for those of you that are Full Focus Planner users, and Verbs, I'll be curious if this is where you fall. I feel like I use the weekly preview to kind of serve this purpose in a lot of ways. But I know in seasons, and the three of us, we actually did this kind of like journaling challenge a couple of years ago. And I've definitely found like when I, spend the time, even like, hey, part of my weekly preview, helps me, kind of observe, what we're doing and why I'm doing it. But to have the like space to actually just like write it out and kind of spend the time like free flowing ideas, I could definitely see how that really aids in that and kind of like boosts the potential of that.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that, Courtney. And I think if I don't want to misspeak on this, but I feel like we're kind of not modifying, but expanding kind of the classic version of journaling. Like it's not necessarily, let me go to Barnes and Noble, buy, 200 pages of blank paper and then just kind of pour my thoughts out. But it's like what journaling looks to accomplish. The end goal of that is figuring out, what best kind of suits you as far as how you think, the way you process, and then implement that practice. For some people, it could be the Full Focus Planner in that weekly preview. I tend to do that myself. Some people, it may be the blank journal. Some people need prompts, in some sort of book where they can kind of just write things out. So I think it's important that we just kind of define that at the onset. Is don't just kind of think about it in the classic sense of I got a journal, I do this every day. But what are the ways that you can get these thoughts and process on paper so you can observe your life, properly?
Well, it's interesting because in the journaling that I've done, when you talk about like going to Barnes and Noble, I end up just like writing facts about things that are happening, which is like not really the purpose of journaling. And so like even in that, I was like, I have to have those prompts to actually help me process my thinking. Otherwise, I get into just like who, what, when, how, which is not really, it is in a sense observing our lives, but it doesn't help you with the next set of reasons that we have.
Yeah, but
it's true. But I want to slow you down there, Courtney, because I actually think that's more helpful than you might realize.
Yes,
interesting.
It's
okay.
Just writing down what happened has been. Now I'm sort of pulling this out of a hat here because I don't have the Harvard Business Review article with the statistics in front of me, but in a similar way to how there's different kinds of meditation, and sometimes, oh, I really want to meditate on something that's going to help me be more grateful or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most basic meditations that, whether it's a religious practice or a scientific practice or anything, is just to do, like, to basically just think about your breath, to just be, and they call it
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
mindfulness meditation. And the outcome of that is simply to slow down, to observe, and as an outcome of doing that, you feel more present in your
Mm-hmm.
life and in your situation. If that's the only outcome you ever got from journaling, it's still worth it.
Yeah.
I think it's really hard to stop there, to just, hey, if as part of your weekly review, weekly preview, you look back the last 7 days, you just looked at all the things you did, because that's all you did in your journal time was just, oh, I just write down what happened. Especially for someone like you that's such a creative and critical thinker, it'll be impossible for you to not get more benefits. But I think just the act of slowing down for 5 minutes and
Mm-hmm.
writing that down, at least for me, makes me feel more peaceful, even if it's just 5%.
Yeah,
So
that's
don't sell it
fascinating.
short.
I love that.
And I was going to say, I mean, even just the processing of whatever those facts are, if it's the who, what, when, and why, that's, helpful in itself, as far as that may be how I probably tend to think the same way you do, Courtney, as far as processing is, hey, what's happening? But as I identify those facts, one, I'm reminded of those facts, and then how I felt about those factual moments that helps me
Mm-hmm.
process going forward.
Okay, let's shift to reason number 2. This reason to journal is that journaling helps us clarify our thinking. Journaling helps us clarify our thinking. So this is extremely helpful, because if you're like me, you don't know what you're really thinking until you write it out or until you talk it out. Some
Mm-hmm.
people are more verbal processors. And in fact, I'll say this. This is something I did, I don't know, maybe over the weekend or sometime last week. I wanted to get something out, but I didn't feel I really felt like I had to talk it out. And so I pulled up the voice memo app on my phone, and I just started talking it out, verbal processing to my phone. But as I was processing, I was learning something, which sounds kind of weird. Usually you think, oh, I know and therefore I talk, or I know and therefore I write. It's not
Mm-hmm.
always the case. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
times it's I write and therefore I know, or I talk and therefore I know. So this is like next level learning. We don't just learn by consuming, we learn by then trying to articulate what we've consumed and put it into our own voice and into our own words. So it's really powerful to process stuff you're learning. It's also powerful just to process those events, those things that are happening in your life. So clarity is, clarity. It's like a warm, cozy blanket. Oh, thank you, clarity. I feel so much safer now that
Mm-hmm.
I have clarity. So do you guys, I know even if you're resistant to it, you ever feel like you get that clarity when you're in a meeting and you're processing or you're
Yeah.
writing something down?
Yeah.
Oh, this happened yesterday for me. There's just been this problem that I'm stuck on, and it's kind of one of those, I keep saying, it's like I'm trying to do a puzzle here and I'm not sure what the pieces are. It's kind of one of those. It's like it's not just a puzzle. I don't even know the pieces of it. And I realized that, I was trying to figure it out all in my head, and, I recorded a video to some of the directors on my team, and it forced me to like get clarity on trying to figure out those problems. And in the midst of doing that video, got not all the clarity, but more clarity than I had before. And I think that is a really interesting, because I definitely would consider myself a verbal processor, but of like being able to do that, a whole different um, avenue of that, of using journaling to help do that. And in some ways, even with that problem, I was doing journaling in a sense of like kind of writing down some of the problems and like the pieces that I did know. There was a sense of, again, not like I always think with journaling, we have like so many preconceived ideas about it that it's like,
Absolutely.
has to be at the end of the day. And it's, kind of this like, just like long form, we got to sit down and have like, in a lot of ways, I think I still think like a diary, it's like holdover from our youth when it's like, no, this can be something that we use at all different points, anytime we're feeling stuck with something of like, okay, take a few minutes, write about it, and it'll help you get clarity.
Yeah. I think this whole idea of just getting it out of our head and getting it in front of us on paper is valuable just in general. But I've heard it said, I can't remember who said this quote, but clarity is the new creativity. So as we talk about how do we design our life, well, we can really get clarity and we can get creative with where we want to go and how we get there just by having some sort of practice of getting this stuff down on paper. Over the weekend as well, I was trying to work something out like in my head, or actually the situation was I was trying to type something out on my phone, but then I kept going back to actual pencil and paper and then kind of taking these little segments and trying to put those together in such a way to where I felt like it was clear and accomplished what I was trying to say. And so I had a whole page of just scribbles and thoughts and lines that eventually I transferred over into tapping it out on my phone, but only after I worked it out on paper. And that was super helpful for me in that moment because I gained clarity and it helped me with the next step of where I was going, just getting it on paper. So
I'll make use of journaling when the emotions are high, especially if they're negative about something or I feel stuck, because what I've learned is every problem gets smaller the moment you write it down. Doesn't matter what the problem is. And it's not that it solves the problem, but every problem gets smaller to some extent the moment that you put it into words and write it down. There's something about going from a place of victimhood of this is all in my head and I'm just thinking or I'm stressed to when you write it down, even if it's just 5% or 10%, you definitely take back ownership of your life a little bit. It's a powerful step, I think, to putting a problem into a perspective that becomes more manageable. So that's a big reason to use journaling to clarify your thinking.
So reason number 3, journaling helps us record significant lessons. And I think we see this, anytime we hop on a webinar, we are a part of a conference, somewhere where there's some level of information, education, or teaching that's going out that we want to, kind of record what we would call those tweetable moments, little things that we're learning that we find are significant and actually writing those down so they'll stay with us. But I love what it says here. It says life is a classroom, boot camp, a training environment, and we're constantly exposed to opportunities to learn. And I think this journaling is just one of the top ways we capture those so we can refer to them later and we can reference them going forward.
I think this is really, even in your example, is really important of like, even if we take notes somewhere, to distill those down again at a later point via journaling, like the ability to retain that information and interpret it. It's like, in one sense, like taking notes usually is like more like just trying to take down what is being communicated, where journaling is actually like the process of interpreting those for yourself and, bringing clarity to that learning. And I think that's really what is helpful here on just like the education, the growth side of things, not to mention just the life lessons that, we're learning constantly throughout the day. I may be learning more of those with parenting 2 small children right now than normal, but I think that definitely rings true for me and the experiences I've had.
Absolutely. You mentioned the weekly preview earlier, Courtney, but that's a great ritual is to incorporate some journaling about this because as we've told our clients, life is talking to you and it's giving you those opportunities to learn. And a way that I've thought about it is I don't want experiences. I get to decide what account those go to, if they're just a waste, just kind of like throwing money away, or if I'm investing them. And journaling to record your lessons is like making an investment in your wisdom account. And the cool thing about a wisdom account is that it always is appreciating, and you can't really, when you make a withdrawal from it, it doesn't go away. It's literally just always appreciating. One of my favorite traditions is when my birthday rolls around, I like to just go back through all of my journaling from the last year, just kind of going through, and I'm just noticing trends and trying to, I guess, concisely trim down, I guess, oh, wow, I talked a lot about this. I was journaling, thinking a lot about this. What's the lesson there? And I guess it's kind of my nerdy birthday tradition. That's how I like to party. That's how I like to really throw down on my birthday, is I get out a journal. I just start writing down lessons. And then I love to just share kind of my most favorite ones, because it feels like one of the greatest contributions, whether it was a good year or a bad year, I can always make investments in the wisdom account. And it's really, really satisfying. It brings meaning to even the worst of experiences, whether you feel like you're failing, winning, or losing. When you play to learn versus playing to win or lose, then, it's easier to keep going, easier to stay inspired. It's like, yeah, that's probably one of my favorite things about journaling is it feels like I'm becoming wealthier, the more that I journal.
Man, Verbs, what are we doing? We got to get on this journaling ASAP. Let's go.
I know.
Let's do our last reason. Reason number 4 to journal. If you weren't already convinced that you need to get back in the habit, the 4th reason we have for you is journaling helps us make decisions. Journaling helps us make decisions. So y'all have made some decisions before.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh man, this is kind of closely tied to that second reason, I think, of journaling clarifying your thinking.
Yeah.
The most basic journaling, everyone listening has probably done some version of this, as we draw a little T on the piece of paper, right? On the left, we've got our pros. On the right, we have our cons. And we're trying to just
Google
list
those
out.
now, though.
What's that?
So you can just Google those now. Any kind of matrix you want to know the pros and cons, they're right there. Before you purchase that thing on Amazon,
you don't even have to
they'll
create
tell you
your
the
own.
pros and cons.
Yeah.
Journaling is one of the most efficient things you could do. It's like, oh, I don't have time to journal. It's like, okay, do you have time to feel like crap and keep repeating your mistakes, mister? Yeah. Listen, I got aggressive there. I threw down. But this one, making decisions, is like, can you make a faster decision without journaling? Yeah, but if it's not the right decision, or you could have made a better decision.
But all right, let me ask this, because I'm just playing the voice of dissent now.
Do it.
So if that was the goal, processing to make a decision, can I not accomplish that the same with talking out with somebody and get immediate feedback from what I'm trying to process to help me make that decision?
Absolutely.
Would I get the same results?
I don't think they're mutually exclusive.
Okay.
But even when you're in a meeting, what I've noticed being in many meetings, the momentum of a meeting tends to favor the loudest voices in the room. And the loudest voices aren't always the most beneficial or truthful or correct. They just happen to be the most confident, loud people that are external processors, right? And so sometimes, even if, let's say you were having a meeting, be like, hey, before you come to this meeting, I want everyone to journal out the pros and cons of the decision we're trying to come to together, right? That meeting would actually probably be more productive, because people wouldn't just be following the momentum or the flow of, hey, well, the boss kind of made a pretty bold statement here at the start of the meeting. So I probably should fall in line because that person is in charge of me, right? So that's where things get a little tricky. And I think still the process of journaling to, make certain decisions. Now, that being said, I mean, it's I think of any major decision I've made, like with our family, I want to talk it out with the members of my family, but I still think that it gives you an opportunity to come into the meeting or to come out of the meeting with greater clarity and more confidence of how you're going to move forward if you put pen to paper.
Yeah.
So that's another +1 for Blake.
Yeah.
You never would have expected an episode about journaling to be as feisty, as it is. I'm going to write about this later. I'm going to be like, wow, what did I learn in that episode? Maybe I was too aggressive with the whole, you're trying to feel bad. Like that probably wasn't good. I probably should have been more softer, more gentle. Mm-hmm.
Let us know how that goes.
Okay, I'll let you guys know the lessons that I learned.
Thank you. That would be perfect.
I like it.
So the good news is you no longer have to feel like you're coasting from one thing to the next with life just passing you by. You can live with a deeper, fuller intention by journaling. This simple practice will help you observe your life, clarify your thinking, record significant lessons, and make decisions. And we cannot disagree. Courtney.
That's right.
Blake has talked enough on this episode. I want to hear your final thoughts.
Yeah.
And please, this is where I look to give you a point.
Well, I think, all jokes aside, I totally see the benefits of journaling. And I'm going to take on the challenge. So many times I feel like I'm the one on this podcast, like, hey guys, listen, you're listening, try this out. Like, do it for 2 weeks. And so I'm going to take my own medicine, or I guess Blake's medicine here this week. And what I'm going to commit to y'all is during my weekly preview this week, that when I get through the after action review, that I kind of feel like leads itself well into some journaling, that I'm going to journal. I'm going to pull out my full focus journal. I'm going to use those prompts because y'all know I need some prompts to help me through this. And I'm going to journal. And so, and then I'm just going to see how it goes from there. I mean, I think if you're listening and you fall into the camp with me and Verbs, and maybe you have, some limiting beliefs or like some old beliefs about journaling, I think I'm going to start with just trying to do it as part of my weekly preview process, and then examine that and see if I can add it in other ways. But I think, Blake, what was really powerful in what you shared today was, this can be really powerful in different ways than the ways that I think I continue to perceive journaling. And so I think that's my takeaway from today. So if you're listening and want to join me with your weekly preview this week, when you get through that after action review, that's your trigger. You can know, like, hey, maybe this week I do. Like, let me spend a few minutes journaling. And for me, I'm going to be thinking of it as a task because I've said I'm going to do it, which will probably help me get it done. Verbs, are you in?
Courtney, you know what? After hearing you give good reason and posing a challenge for yourself, I think what I'll do is wait to see how yours goes, but then secretly do it myself and join you on the challenge. What did you say, 2 weeks or 1 week?
That's awesome.
I just said I'm going to do it this week and see how it goes, evaluate it.
All right.
I'm going to try to kind of make it part of my weekly preview process because I think that is probably the best way for me to get it done right now. In this season of life, yeah, listen.
Sure.
All these toddlers, guys, they're not easy, okay? And so I think that's the best way because I've already got that habit installed for me to kind of add on to it. So for some of you, you may have different life situations. You've got some more time, I guess, or other constraints that you may be able to take on more. But for me right now, that's what I'm going to start with and go from there.
All right, I'm down.
I'm so proud. I'm so proud of you.
Let's do it.
Both of you. You're going to get all up in your feelings. It's gonna be
man.
Great.
So excited.
So thank you for joining us on Focus on This. This is the most productive podcast on the internet. So share it with your friends, and don't forget to join our Full Focus community right there on Facebook. And we'll see you here. And we'll be here again next week with another great episode, fully journaled. But until then, stay
Stay focused.
focused.